8 spine-chilling road trip horror stories. Discover the sinister destination that shouldn't exist. The sun hung low in the sky, a fiery or bleeding orange over the desolate road. Liam squinted into the distance, where the asphalt shimmered like a mirage. The air felt thick, charged with a strange electricity that made his gut churn. "You guys ready for a family adventure?" he called back, trying to lift the mood. But as the car rattled along the highway of emptiness, his family's laughter echoed with forced cheer. "Just can't wait to get to that quirky little town," Jake muttered, scrolling through his phone. Emily sat with her earbuds in, eyes glued to the window, avoiding conversations like they'd become a virus. It had been a year since words came easily between them, a year of silence gnawing at their family. Liam had thought this trip might be the glue they needed. Yet, unease stirred in the pit of his stomach as the highway stretched on interminably. Shadows creeped alongside, whispering tales of what lay ahead. They stopped at a decrepit gas station that seemed to loom like a warning. The flickering fluorescent light cast eerie shadows across the ground as they slid out of the car. The attendant barely looked up from his magazine, his weathered hands trembling, almost as if grasping for imaginary safety. "You sure you want to go to that ghost town?" he croaked, eyes darting over each of them. "It's just out there." The night air grew thick, choking off laughter. "Simon, it's just a town." Liam tried to brush it away, but even he felt the hairs on the back of his neck prickle. As they filled up the tank, the locals lingered with odd, sideways glances, mumbling stories of families that disappeared without a trace. Each glimmer of eye contact felt like an unbidden dare. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The family ignored the clerk's warnings, opting to trust their navigation app, which suddenly glitched, rerouting them back toward the ghost town with an almost eerie precision. As twilight descended, they could hear the wind picking up, howling like an anguished spirit whispering threats through the trees. They drove on, the shadows creeping closer, threading around their car like ghostly fingers. Suddenly, the vehicle shuddered, the engine wheezed, and then, lights out. The car jerked to a stop in the heart of darkness. Panic washed over them, and Sarah's voice trembled. "We just need to make it to the town. There's bound to be someone who can help." Liam felt the weight of protection suffocating him. "No, we don't know what's out there." Their voices escalated into frantic shouts, fists slamming on the dashboard. The darkness got thicker, swallowing their arguments alive. It wasn't just the darkness of night now. It felt alive, hostile. Finally, they pushed into the town's light, finding an odd nostalgia cloaked in an unsettling fog. The streets were lined with quaint homes, their charm tainted by something sinister. Well-meaning smiles from the townsfolk held a tight grip on their true intentions. Shadows danced behind familiar faces, and whispers from the porch swung back, curling around them like fractals of dread as they navigated further. A chilling connection emerged. This town was oddly entwined with their family history. The wrong turns that had led them here clung like fears inside. Neighboring stores harbored remnants of darker days. Items on display seemed to remind them of things long buried. The deeper they went, the more the town and their own dark truths clawed closer together. And as the town watched them, waiting and whispering intrigues, they found they were breaking into unknown terrors far darker than they could have ever dreamed. As panic grasped every member of the family, shaking their assumed trust, they faced a haunting realization. Perhaps the only thing scarier than their connection was the pull of each sealed family secret, threatening to tear them apart forever. The air felt different now, heavy and stagnant. Liam led the way down the main street as an unnatural fog rolled in, coiling around their ankles. Shadows flickered in the periphery, teasing glimpses of movement just out of sight. The quiet felt suffocating, almost too loud, echoing their heartbeat as they ventured deeper into the town. Who lives here? Jake asked, glancing at Emily, who had finally pulled her earbuds out but seemed a step away from panic. Her eyes darted from shop to shop, as if searching for an exit. Don't know, Liam replied, trying to suppress his own rising fear. Just look at the signs. It's charming. The word tasted bitter on his tongue. The faded welcome signs and empty storefronts, lined with peeling paint, gave a sickly sweet nod to nostalgia. But there was a bite lurking beneath. A shrill laugh pierced the silence. The sound emanated from an old woman sitting on a rickety porch. Her long fingers knotted like branches. Her toothless grin spread wide, revealing a mouth that only seemed capable of sinister whispers. Lost are ya, dear ones? Liam hesitated, just passing through. We meant to visit the sights. Sights? The woman cackled. Oh honey, there are sights indeed. You must see the House of Whispers. But remember, her gaze darkened. Not all whispers are sweet. A shiver weaved through Liam, digging under his skin. He pulled his family closer, and they moved on, stepping away from the porch like it was a pit of snakes. Each home they passed seemed to lean in, as if the inhabitants were watching, judging. They could almost hear the breath of the town, thick and expectant around them. Maybe we should find a place to stay for the night, Sarah suggested, her voice barely masking her unease. This is just stupid, we don't have an option. We need gas. Our phones are dead. The car is dead. And we're out in the middle of nowhere. Jake hissed, anger pushing through fear. Liam could see the way the shadows danced behind Jake's eyes. Desperation was clawing to the surface as they approached a large, decaying inn at the end of the road. Dark shapes flitted through the fog, pulling at the corners of their vision. The structure loomed ominously, its windows dark as if the life inside had been snuffed out like a beaten soul. Stay here, Liam commanded, their silent discomfort seeping into the words. He stepped inside. A heavy door creaked open, revealing a dim lobby covered in dust and neglect. The bell on the counter chimed a hollow greeting. Anyone here? His voice felt feeble against the silence. He peered around, and the walls seemed to close in, memories trapped in the peeling wallpaper mocking him. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. A man with a lopsided smile, weathered and wild-eyed, took up position behind the counter. You look for a room? He asked, his voice scratchy as if he hadn't used it for ages. Or maybe you're searching for something else. It took Liam a moment to gather himself. Just a night stay. We need to get back on the road. Don't rush now. This place has a way of ensnaring those who hurry. And time doesn't work like you think here. The man's eyes flickered with a strange light, almost predatory. Liam turned back to the door, the urge to retreat clawing at him. Outside, he found his family clustered, eyes wide with fear and confusion. The innkeeper's words looped in his mind. There was more to this place, something sinister sleeping beneath the surface. Maybe we should leave, Emily whispered, her voice trembling. She could sense it too, the wrongness that clung to the air. But no sooner had the thought crossed their minds than they heard it, a low moan, a collective voice rising from the town, wrapping around them with urgency. Stay, don't leave, you're part of us now. Liam's pulse quickened. They were not just trapped. They were being claimed. He felt the darkness thicken, whispering secrets only meant for them. Into the inn, he said, heart pounding out an uneven rhythm. They moved as one, but the town felt alive, pulsing with a sick excitement. What awaited them behind those walls? As they crossed the threshold again, the door slammed shut behind them. The shadows seemed to dance tighter, the air rife with anticipation. The weight of the town pressed in on them, demanding something more than just their visit. And as they stood there, trembling, trapped in a web of their own making, a realization dawned, a dark truth they had yet to uncover. What if their family history intertwined with the town was more than mere coincidence? In the heart of the sinister whispers, a chilling question formed. What exactly had they brought to this town? As the man behind the counter grinned wider, a chilling echo of that old woman's laughter faded into the darkness, making them wonder if their story would be just one of many, or the final chapter of an unspeakable legacy. The door thudded shut, sealing them inside the oppressive weight of the inn. The lobby shifted with shadows, each inch echoing distrust and foreboding. The innkeeper's crooked grin twisted in the faint light, shadows pooling in the lines of his weathered face. "Welcome to your new home for tonight," he said, his voice dripping with something sinister. Liam's heart raced as he exchanged frantic glances with Sarah, Emily, and Jake. "Can we just get a room?" Sarah's voice cracked, her usual steadiness crumbling under pressure. "Of course," he replied, moving rigidly behind the counter, his movements slow and deliberate as he reached for a dusty register. The air grew thicker, and Liam could almost taste the panic. "This wasn't just an inn. It was a trap. I can offer you 3 options. Room 1, 2, or 3, the innkeeper said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Each has its own stories, its own secrets. Just give us a room," Jake barked, irritation coloring his fear. "Room 2, then," the innkeeper said, sliding a tarnished key across the counter. "Ample space and quite popular among our new arrivals." Liam took the key, its metal cold and heavy in his palm, and led his family toward the staircase. As they walked, an unsettling silence cloaked them. The inn's floor creaked underfoot, each sound amplified like a scream. "Why don't we just leave?" Emily murmured, glancing nervously toward the door they had entered. But the moaning outside had amplified and morphed into a chorus, a desperate wail that settled into their bones, the feeling seeping dread into their minds. "Because we can't," Liam said, trying to summon resolve. "We have no other choice." They reached room 2, and as Liam inserted the key, his hand trembled. The lock clicked open, and they stepped inside, the door swinging shut behind them with a heavy thud. The room was sparsely furnished. A bed stood against one wall, draped in decaying linens. An old dresser creaked ominously as Liam opened its drawers, expecting to find personal items, remnants of past guests. Instead, it was empty, utterly vacant. Then, a chill ran through him as he turned to the window. The fog outside had thickened, curling like a sentient entity, hiding the world beyond. He pulled the curtains tight, shutting out the oppressive mist, and turned back to his family. "Let us try to make the best of it," he said, more to himself than to them. But the ambience was suffocating, shadows lurking at the edges of his vision, intensifying every moment. "Did you hear that?" Jake's eyes widened, darting to the corner of the room. A faint whisper echoed, barely audible, yet there. Words twisted into indistinguishable sounds, rising and falling like the notable strains of a haunting lament. "What?" Sarah whispered, her breath hitching in her throat. Emily pressed her ear against the wall. "It's like they're trying to talk." "Stop it," Liam snapped, frustration boiling over. "We need to stay focused. This is just some trick. We'll sleep," and in the morning another moan, louder this time, rumbled through the foundation, causing the walls to shudder. The sound resonated with a palpable urgency, like a chant drawing them toward something unseen. "We have to get out," Emily said, panic rising in her voice. "No," Jake interjected, his face paling. "You felt it too. It wants us to stay." "What do you mean?" Liam demanded, mind racing. "I mean it's like it's feeding on our fear," Jake said, his gaze fixed on the door, as if expecting it to rattle. "No way. We're not letting it win," Liam declared, steeling himself. "Let us head back to the lobby. We'll confront that man, find out what's really happening." As they prepared to leave, the air thickened and shifted, as if the room itself held a breath, waiting. The whisper swelled, now carrying mournful undertones that thrummed against Liam's skull, pulling him deeper into the dark web. Suddenly, the door shook violently as if something was trying to break in. "Do you feel that?" Sarah's voice trembled, rooted to the spot. A dark thought crept over Liam. What if the town wasn't merely claiming them, but demanding them as offerings? As fear gripped them, the shadows twisted and darkened, and the wails of the town rose to a crescendo, nearly drowning out the confusion. "Now we listen," The innkeeper's voice echoed through the doorway, low and mocking. Liam's heart raced. Was this just the beginning? What had they truly awakened? A cold dread settled over them, tightening like a noose as they considered the depths of those haunting whispers. And somewhere in the murmur of the shadows, a chilling truth drew closer. They were not the only ones trapped in this cycle of terror. What came next could rewrite their fate or seal it forever. The walls of room 2 seemed to close in, vibrating with the desperate wails from just beyond the door. Liam swallowed hard, his throat dry, as if the very air around him were conspiring against them. Sarah, eyes wide and glimmering with unshed tears, clutched Emily's hand. Jake stood rigid, his gaze flickering toward the door, the frame warped in his mind, as though it might burst apart at any moment. "Okay," Liam said, his voice barely more than a whisper. "On 3, we open the door." "Liam, no," Emily gasped, tugging at him. But he shook her off, heart pounding in his chest. 1, 2, his voice trailed off, caught in the tension. The door seemed to thrum beneath his hand, an ominous heartbeat. 3, he exclaimed, ripping the door open. Air surged in, heavy with the scent of mildew and faint beyond the walls, the eerie chorus attacking their senses. They stumbled into the hallway, where shadows loomed larger, pooling in the corners, alive and waiting as if they were sentient beings ready to swallow them whole. "We need to get back to the lobby," Liam insisted, taking a step forward followed by his family, their footsteps hesitant and echoing in the silence. But as they walked, the whispers grew louder, swirling around them like a cyclone of dread. Liam clenched his fists, fighting the urge to run as a thrumming pressure enveloped him. Desperate murmurs intertwined with old memories, pressing into his mind, haunting him with fragmented phrases of desperation. "Help us not alone." The air turned cold, a shiver traveling down his spine. With each echo, the sensation of unseen eyes tracking their movements intensified. He turned to Jake, who stared down the darkened corridor, awash in fear. "Do we really want to know what's going on here?" Jake whispered, backing away as the shadows shifted, contorting like phantoms. "Not knowing might be worse," Liam shot back when another ominous moan resonated through the air. Emily grabbed his arm, panic etched on her face. "We can't stay. Whatever that is, it wants us trapped." "Then we move faster," Liam urged, kicking into a hurried pace despite the fear like a vice around his chest. They darted from one end of the hall to the other, but as they neared the stairs, the innkeeper's voice slithered around them once more. "Looking for a way out? It's still open for a visit, just a visit," he taunted, coming from the shadows as he appeared. His face twisted into an unsettling smile, eyes glimmering with a dark hunger. Liam froze. "What have you done to us?" The innkeeper leaned closer, almost reveling in their terror. "It's not about what I have done, but what you've brought with you. This place knows every fear, every suffering. It thrives on it." Jake trembled beside Liam, the weight of realization crashing down. "We have to fight it," he said, voice quaking. "Fight or give in," the innkeeper murmured, and with that, shadows spread like wings from his back, falling around them as thick as fog. The air chilled even further, wrapping around their minds like icy tendrils. Liam's heart raced. They were being consumed by their fears as he clutched Emily's hand tightly. Time was running out. A desperate thought sparked in his mind. "We need to face it, not submit," he shouted, determination fueling his voice. As they stood there, shadows weaving closer, a flash of light caught Liam's eye from the farthest corner of the lobby. There, amidst the swirling dark, he thought he could see an opening, a chance to escape this waking nightmare. "This way," Liam yelled, kicking into gear once more, racing toward the flickering light while shadows writhed in pursuit, reaching for them with ghostly grasp. The innkeeper's laughter echoed through the halls, mingling with the frantic pounding of their hearts. Each step felt like a final countdown, pushing them toward either salvation or damnation, the darkness hungry for its next feast. "Run!" Sarah screamed, breathless. But behind them, the whispers began to morph, rising to a crescendo that echoed off the walls, pulling them back toward the very depths of fear they sought to escape. "What? awaited them in that flickering light? Would it lead them to freedom or deeper into the sinister grasp of the inn's malevolent appetite? They barreled toward the flickering light, hearts pounding like war drums, each beat echoing the urgency of their desperation. The shadows encroached, thickening and stretching, eager to snatch them back into the darkness. Liam pushed himself forward, urging his family to follow. The light ahead pulsated, flickering like a distant star struggling against the void. "Faster!" he shouted, feeling the cold grip of fear tighten around him. With each step, the whispers intensified, turning into a dissonant choir that clawed at their minds. "Stay, don't leave." The words dripped with malice, oozing into their thoughts like poison. Emily stumbled behind him, breathless and pale. "Liam, it's too much," she gasped, her voice thin, barely cutting through the oppressive atmosphere. "Just keep moving," he barked, knowing full well that stopping meant succumbing to the dread and despair surrounding them. Then, all at once, they broke through the darkness into the source of the light. It was a doorway flickering with an unnatural glow, the edges shimmering like heat waves on asphalt. Beyond, he could see only the outline of a larger space, a sanctuary, perhaps where it was too bright to clearly discern the details. "Is it safe?" Jake breathed, as if the very question might summon a low growl from the shadows. "I don't know," Liam replied, taking another breath, chest tightening under the pressure of the unseen fear. With a push, he dived through the doorway, his family close behind. They landed in what felt like a vast, abandoned room, walls lined with peeling wallpaper that whispered secrets of despair. Dust motes danced in the thick shafts of light. The air was different here, less suffocating, but still heavy with a lingering sense of doom. "Where are we?" Sarah asked, casting a worried glance around. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, ancient and weathered. Resting atop it was an ornate wooden box, its carvings intricate and haunting. "That's strange," Emily said, taking a cautious step forward, drawn to the mysterious box. "What do you think's inside?" "I think we shouldn't touch it," Jake warned, eyes darting. The shadows from the hall seemed reluctant to follow, retreating, but not completely gone. "It might be a trap, or our only hope," Liam countered, curiosity gnawing at him, pushing back against the instinctive fear that held fast as he stepped closer. A strong gust swept through the room, rattling the dust-laden air. The box creaked and seemed to pulse with energy, as if it were alive, resonating with their fear. "Maybe it has answers or a way out," Liam murmured, reaching out a hand, the surface cold beneath his fingertips. Suddenly, Sarah let out a shrill scream. "Behind you!" Liam spun around, heart racing. The shadows had not retreated completely, they now slithered forward, coiling around the doorway, dark fingers beckoning them back into the claustrophobic grasp of the inn. "No!" he shouted, recognizing their intent. "We will not go back." But the innkeeper's laughter echoed in the vast space, rich and taunting. "You can't escape what is inside you, Liam." That box, he gestured, shadows swirling menacingly. "It holds more than you can imagine." Chilled, Liam turned back to the box, indecision gripping him. Should they open it? What would they unleash? But could they risk letting the darkness pull them back into the abyss? "Do we even have a choice?" Jake breathed, glancing fearfully between the illuminated box and the encroaching shadows. As the shadows inched closer, he caught a flicker of movement within the box, beckoning them like a siren call. The air thickened with tension as every heartbeat seemed to synchronize with the race against the shadows. What lay within the box? Was it a key to their salvation or the final piece of the terrifying puzzle that would lead them to despair? Or was it merely a gamble with fate, one they could not afford to take? Liam hesitated, hands still hovering over the box as the shadows closed in. Would they dare to open it? Or would they succumb to the house's appetite for their souls? Liam's heart thundered in his chest, drowning out the whispers that swirled around them. He glanced at his family, their faces a mix of fear and determination. The shadows pressed closer, their dark tendrils reaching, hungry for something they couldn't name. "What if it's our only chance?" he murmured, half to himself. The box seemed to pulse with anticipation, its ornate carvings almost shimmering in the ghostly light. "Don't do it, Liam." Emily's voice cracked, losing its strength. "We don't know what that thing is." Behind them, the laughter of the innkeeper slithered around them, deep and mocking. "You think you have a choice? You're all mine, your very souls are what I crave." A chill swept through the room, wrapping around Liam like ice. They couldn't afford to listen to the fear. They had to act. With a deep breath that felt like it would be his last, he pressed his fingers onto the cold, intricate surface of the box. The moment he touched it, a shockwave of energy surged through him. The room spun, the pulsing light flickering violently as if protesting his decision. Shadows roared, clawing at the edges of the doorway, a threatening tide eager to pull them back. "Liam!" Sarah screamed, her voice mingling with the shadows. He forced himself to look away from her terrified expression and focus on the box. Revolving in its design were symbols he couldn't comprehend, whispering as if alive, imploring him, promising secrets, begging to be freed. "Open it," Jake shouted, his eyes wild, full of pleading and desperation. "We can't let it win." Okay. Liam stammered as he fumbled with the latch. It didn't budge at first, as if resisting his touch. With a surge of adrenaline, he yanked it open, the screech of old wood splitting the oppressive silence. The box creaked ominously, revealing a dark void within, deeper than anything he had imagined. A cool wind blew from the darkness, wrapping around them like a shroud. Struggling against a rising sense of dread, he leaned in closer. Suddenly, wisps of dark smoke shot from the box, spiraling into the air like restless spirits. They danced in the light, swirling around them, twisting and writhing, making the shadows more vibrant and alive. "No!" Emily cried, recoiling. But the mist had already seeped into their skin, chilling their bones, invoking memories buried deep within. Secrets, fears, and regrets flooded their minds, each one a stabbing reminder of their past. What appeared next was more than their fears. It was a reflection of their intertwined fates. Liam saw Sarah in a different light, her eyes terrified, the source of her despair clear. Jake's expression morphed, revealing a silent scream of guilt over choices he could never reclaim. Emily fell to her knees, the weight of their truths crashing over her like tidal waves. They were shackled not by the darkness around them but by the darkness within. "Fight it!" Liam shouted, trying to break through the fog in his own mind. "Remember who we are. We have to stay together." Shadows slithered closer, feeding off their turmoil, the innkeeper's laughter echoing in the background. "What you see is but a glimpse. You're too fragile to withstand it." The mist sharpened, coalescing into horrifying images, tragedies they wished to forget, turning their bond into a battlefield. "Get back!" Liam screamed, putting himself between them and the advancing shadows, determination coursing through him. He couldn't lose them. Not like this. But what would it cost to save them? As darkness loomed, stretching hungrily toward them, Liam realized the box held not just their fears but a choice to confront their past, or allow the shadows to claim them. His heart raced as he faced the growing nightmare. Would facing their inner demons forge a path to freedom, or was it but a gateway to deeper horrors? The shadows laughed, and in that wicked mirth, he caught a glimmer of truth. Would you be willing to sacrifice everything for the faintest chance of survival? He hesitated. Would they really dare to face what lay within themselves? In that moment all they knew hung in a precarious balance, the choice lingering on the tip of their trembling lips. What would happen if they fell deeper into their own nightmares? Liam could feel the cold grip of the shadows tightening around him. Panic surged through him like a boiling river as he fought to keep his family together in the swirling chaos. The ghastly laughter of the innkeeper echoed sharper now, bolting through his mind like an unwanted guest. "You think you can escape? Your fears are only the beginning." The smoke from the box snaked around their legs, creeping higher as if alive, ready to drown them in their anguish. His heart ached at the sight of Emily on the floor, clutching her head as though trying to ward off the memories that clawed at her sanity. Sarah was trembling, her wide eyes reflecting the horror they all felt, darkness closing in. Focus, Liam shouted, forcing his voice to break through the ghostly haze. We can do this together. Just breathe. Jake, still frozen with guilt, barely managed to nod. What if we can't? Then we fall and face what's waiting, Liam replied, forcing strength into his tone. But would that actually keep them safe? The shadows lunged forward, the laughter melding with mournful wails. Images of their worst moments replayed vividly, more real than reality. Liam's vision flickered. He saw their childhood home engulfed in flames, echoes of their family's screams crashing against his mind like waves against stone. He wanted to pull away but found himself rooted in place, trapped by his own past. Listen, Liam said, clenching his fists. These are just memories. They can't hurt us unless we let them. With a push, he grasped Emily's hand, pulling her to her feet. We're still here, right? Together? As he spoke, a strange warmth began to radiate from where they held on to each other, a reluctant ember fighting against the drowning cold. Hope filled the air like a thick mist, cutting through the gloom, even if only a little. Remember the time we were lost in the woods? Sarah's voice quivered, but determination bled through her fear. We promised we wouldn't leave each other behind. Yes, Jake shouted, holding onto that flicker of light. We can find our way out of this. The shadows recoiled, unsure how to dampen their newfound resolve. But a sinister whisper rippled through the air, snaking into their ears, chilling them to the bone. Do you think your childhood bonds can save you? You will fall into despair just like before. Liam clenched his teeth, prepared to fight back, but the shadows surged forward, a tidal wave of darkness threatening to engulf them. Panic surged again, pounding in his ears. But instead of running, they stood their ground, hands locked tightly, drawing strength from one another. With a deep breath, Liam rallied. What do we have to do? What do we need to see? One by one, their eyes turned towards the box. It pulsed more insistently, drawing them in, promising answers, truths waiting to be uncovered. Could looking deeper be the key to dismantling the dark grip that threatened their souls? The shadows writhed, ominous tendrils reaching out. You are mistaken. The box does not hold salvation. It holds another choice, a darker path. A shudder passed through the group as Liam felt the air grow thicker. He looked at each family member. Fear entangled them, but there was also defiance shining through those frightened eyes. I don't care what it demands. We have to try. Liam stepped closer to the box as if drawn in by an unseen force. The shadows recoiled at his step, writhing and screaming as he carefully peered into the void. Visions twisted and turned within, images that threatened to drown him and challenge what little resolve he had left. It was clear this was more than just their past. It was everything they had buried, everything that could break or make them whole again. Desperation clawing at his throat, Liam whispered, "What if we don't like what we find? What if it breaks us?" And then, from the box, a light flickered, shimmering like a beacon. Do you dare to step into the light, or will the shadows devour what remains of you? In that moment, Liam stood at the brink, ready to confront the choices ahead. Would they dive into the unknown and reclaim the strength buried beneath their broken selves? The answer teetered on the edge of a fragile breath, and just as Liam stepped forward, the shadows lunged again, more vicious now. He could almost hear the innkeeper's laughter echoing, promising that this was just the beginning. What awaited them if they took the plunge? Would they emerge stronger, or would they forever be lost in the maw of darkness? Liam's heart raced as the shadows lunged, an unholy cacophony of terror clashing together in a desperate frenzy. The darkness towered above them, menacing, alive, and it pulsed with an insatiable hunger. It reached toward Liam, its cold fingers seeking to pry apart the bond he had forged with his family. Stay close, he shouted, pulling Emily, Sarah, and Jake nearer as the void behind him throbbed like a living thing. The box shimmered tantalizingly, a lighthouse beckoning them to the stormy seas of their hidden fears. He turned, trying to drown out the approaching wails that scraped against his mind. Turning his focus away from the shadows for just a moment, he met Emily's terrified gaze. Her pain felt tangible, almost like a knife twisting in his gut. We can't let it win. We're stronger than this. The desperation in his tone made him feel like a broken record. But he pushed forward. Liam. Sarah's voice trembled, uncertainty clouding her eyes. Just hold on. He urged, realizing the flicker of light within the box was dimming as the shadows swelled around them like a flood. They might be trapped in this hell forever unless they dared to take that final step. We have to look deeper. Are we ready? Jake's face turned pale, so white it appeared ghostly. There's no telling what will happen. What if we see things we can't handle? Emily squeezed his hand tightly, her knuckles white. What's worse? Facing our past or being swallowed whole by this darkness? Her voice, though shaky, held a fierceness that lit a spark in Liam. The box teetered on the edge of revelation, its surface swirling with images of joy and tragedy, faint whispers dancing just below the surface. You want the truth? The shadows hissed, then embrace your failures, your guilt, your burdens. They await you in the light. It was then that Liam plunged his hand into the box, pulled by an unseen force as the world around him seemingly shrank. The familiar warmth of the light wrapped around him like a blanket, but it clashed with an icy whisper that prodded at his thoughts. The box itself felt like it was laced with secrets, memories ready to erupt like fireworks in his mind. Suddenly, visions erupted around him. He saw his mother crying on the kitchen floor, the scent of acrid smoke swirling through the air, melding with the sounds of sirens that slapped raw scars open. He watched himself as a child, small and frightened, unable to save what was already lost. A scream tore from his throat as he staggered back, but the light flickered, drawing him deeper. Liam. He heard his name echo, the worried wails of his family piercing the haze. The warmth pushed back against the relentless chill of despair. His heart beat wildly in his chest, desperate to pull him away, but he refused. Step back into the light or remain trapped forever. The shadows screamed. They surged forward, consuming everything in their path, but the box pulsed with a promise. I won't lose you, he shouted, taking a step closer. We will face it together. The moment hung between them, precarious and tense, as they all steeled themselves, anticipating the hum of truth or the merciless bite of terror. Are you willing to sacrifice everything for the truth? The shadows whispered, the innkeeper's laughter echoing dully in the background, dulling their resolve. A chill crept along his spine, and Liam realized they had to make a choice. The air tightened around them, and with one last look at his family, he nodded, ready to plunge deeper. Together. But just as he summoned his courage, darkness thundered, breaking through their unity like glass shattering. The ground beneath them trembled. The box's light flickered dangerously. Would they defy the shadows and emerge whole, or would they be consumed by the darkness they sought to confront? The next moment arrived, and as the ground creaked ominously beneath them, Liam could only wonder what awaited them on the other side of that light. The moment the darkness thundered, an unbearable weight pressed down on Liam. It was as if the air itself conspired against them, growing heavier with each beat of his heart. The shadows writhed, their hunger palpable, clawing hungrily at the edges of their forms, desperate to pull them apart. Liam, Sarah gasped. Her voice trembled like a fragile leaf caught in a storm. He shifted, the box slipping through his fingers. It felt like it was trying to pull him into its depths, dragging him further from his family's reach. No, Jake shouted, grabbing onto Liam's arm. We can't let it take us. But the shadows only laughed, a low, rumbling sound that echoed through the thick air. They coiled around Liam, teasing at his very essence. Do you really think you can fight what you fear most? They taunted, voices melding into one chilling choir. Face it or succumb. Your past will catch you. Images blurred in the box's flickering light. He saw moments of laughter and joy bursting through the pain, but those were soon swept away by scenes of ash-smeared memories. He could feel the betrayal stinging his heart, friends turning away, whispers in the hallways, hours spent wrestling with guilt and shame. It twisted inside him, choking his resolve. Remember that summer? When you failed? The shadows hissed, tendrils of darkness snaking through the air, thick with dread. Liam shuddered, battling against the flood of memories surging within him. "I won't give in," he shouted over the cacophony, lifting his arm toward the diminishing light from the box. Its glow seemed to brighten for just a moment, reviving the hope he tried so hard to cling to. "We have to break through. We can't let it win." But before he could focus again, a sudden gasp rattled him. Emily's face twisted with anguish, and the shadows surged closer, almost tasting her fear. "Liam, please," she cried, clutching his arm. "I can't," the shadows shrieked, a cacophony of despair that chilled Liam's very bones. The ground beneath him roared, cracking like old porcelain, and endless darkness yawned below. "Face your truth," the shadows screeched in unison. His whole body felt paralyzed by their voice. There was a weight in his chest, heavy like boulders, and it was drowning him in memories he was desperate to forget. He could see faces now, people he loved who had long since turned away. The weight doubled, visions spilling forth. He was thrust into the center of every moment he feared most. The time he lost everything. "Liam!" The call of his name broke through. It was Sarah's voice, rising above the shadows, pulling him back toward the fragile flicker of light. Hope surged anew. He gripped the edge of the box, edging closer. "Together!" Liam shouted, desperately trying to rally his family. Their faces flickered like the light, fear and determination battling for dominance. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from the box, blaring through the darkness, revealing a glimpse of the past, an older version of him turning away from a dying friend. Regret carved deep into his being. "Face it," the shadows urged, as blinding light surrounded them. "Is the only way, or will you remain lost forever?" The light engulfed them, a fierce wave crashing against the consuming darkness. Liam felt his family surge forward, and as the shadows shrieked in fury, they were swept up in a surge of desperation and hope. But just as quickly, the earth beneath them gave way, and with a sudden shift, they fell into a dark chasm that felt as though it would never end. As they spiraled down, mere inches apart, Liam's heart pounded. "We can't let go," he screamed, a new reality setting in. "What if we're not ready?" And then, with a jarring crack, the light vanished, replaced by silence. What awaited them in the darkness? Did the truth truly lie at the bottom, or were they simply falling into a new layer of their own nightmares? The freefall sent Liam's heart racing, an endless drop into darkness. What felt like forever finally ended with a jarring thud as they crashed onto cold, hard ground. Groaning in pain, he rolled to his side, swallowing the dread that swirled in the back of his throat. "Everyone okay?" he rasped, glancing around at his family. Jake shook his head, visibly disoriented, while Sarah rubbed her arms as if to ward off the chill in the air. Emily was quiet, her eyes wide, reflecting a storm of emotions. They were together. That was what mattered. They rose slowly to their feet, uncertainty thickening the air around them. Liam instinctively reached for Emily's hand, grounding her as a wave of shadows curled like smoke at the edges of their vision. "Where are we?" Jake murmured, scanning the dismal expanse around them. This place felt wrong, a suffocating void that wrapped around them like the fog from the inn. "We have to remember," Liam said, the weight of the shadows pressing against his back. "We faced our fears together. We need to keep moving forward." Emily nodded, trembling but resolute. With a deep breath, they pushed forward, walking into the ominous unknown. The shadows shrank back slightly, as if sensing the courage in their united front. But the air crackled with anticipation. A flickering light emerged in the distance, illuminating what looked like a wall of ancient stone, covered with runes and symbols they could scarcely comprehend. As they drew closer, the light grew brighter, pouring a warm glow across the cold ground. "It's calling us," Sarah said, captured by the glow. "Maybe it leads us to the truth?" Liam took a deep breath. "Let us find out." He squeezed Emily's hand tighter and moved toward the light with renewed purpose as they approached. The runes began to shift, intertwining and rearranging, revealing pictures from their past memories of joy and sorrow, intertwined tales that had shaped their lives. Liam's heart sank at the sight of his childhood home, ablaze. Despair carved deep lines on each family member's face. But alongside those painful moments danced flashes of laughter and love, the bonds they had forged despite the storms they weathered. It was an endless kaleidoscope of experiences, lifting and weighing them down simultaneously. Yes, Liam whispered, the realization dawning. This is where we confront it all. The memory, the pain, the love, it's all intertwined. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked and guarded, radiating an overwhelming sense of despair. It was the innkeeper, standing resolutely between them and the light. "It's futile," he hissed, his voice like gravel. "You would dare to confront your past? Without facing the truth, you're lost." But Liam felt a fire ignite within him. He stepped forward, eyes fierce. "We will face the truth. We won't let you win. We choose to embrace it all." The innkeeper's laughter echoed, but the shadows behind him wavered, whimpering. Liam glanced at his family, determination pooling in their eyes, and they held hands, forming a solid chain against the darkness. They stepped into the circle of light, feeling the glow surround them like a protective barrier. The brightness surged, washing over them, merging their memories into one. The shadows recoiled, screeching, pressed against the periphery as the warmth forged a path deeper into their truths. As the light enveloped them, they were granted glimpses into their deepest fears and regrets. Each painful revelation tinged with love, a memory of a lost friend, a talk not had, decisions that still hurt, but also laughter shared and support given when it mattered most. The weight lifted, clarity bursting forth brighter than any shadow could bear. "Together, we can do this," Liam's voice rang out. They pressed forward, resolutely, facing forward, fueled by a bond forged in trust, fear, and shared experience, one that would withstand the darkest of nights. The innkeeper's figure trembled as the light hurtled toward him, breaking the shadows around his form. He howled in fury, but Liam pushed through as he felt the pull of each family member beside him. Memories of hope, joy, and unconditional love surged to drown out the noise, the flicker almost engulfing the malevolent presence at once as the walls of memories crumbled. The flickering light consumed the darkness, leaving behind only the memories they had endured and learned from. In that moment, clarity swept through, leaving no darkness behind. Their senses awakened as they landed back outside the inn, breathing hard, the oppressive air now lifted. The shadows had dissipated, evaporating into whispers that faded away into the breeze. "Is it over?" Jake panted, glancing back at the now ordinary-looking building. They stood together, chest rising and falling, hugged in tentative relief. Liam smiled at his family, heart heavy yet lighter. "We choose what we carry, and we chose to bring love. Let us go home," Sarah replied softly, tears shimmering in her eyes, but her expression radiant as she held on to Emily's shoulders. And so, they turned away from the haunting town, leaving behind the remnants of darkness, a place that had once threatened to tear them apart but instead had intertwined their fates, heavier yet hope-filled than ever before. As they drove away, sunlight streaming across the horizon, they could hear laughter, now untainted with nothing but the road leading to new adventures ahead. The journey wasn't over, but they'd face it together. Nothing could separate them now. Don't let this story fade away. Subscribe immediately to our channel, so you don't miss out on more exclusive tales that will send chills down your spine. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and thoughts about this haunting conclusion. And remember to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. This is the moment to show you're a true fan. Don't wait even one more second.